Let's go through another draft. I did a draft last weekend with SiriusXM and Fantasy Alarm led by Howard Bender. It is our annual Independence Day Draft. We do it around the 4th of July every single year for multiple years now. It is such a fun league, and I thought I would walk you through the results, talk through strategy, and talk through players here. Before I do that, I do have to explain the settings. It's not as crazy as the Scott Fish Bowl, right? But there are some differences, and you will notice immediately how that affected the draft board. So let me walk you through it. It is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 starting wide receivers, 2 starting tight ends, yes, 2 starting tight ends, and 2 flex. So first off, right off the bat, 2 tight ends starting is a lot different than tight end premium. It is not tight end premium. You do not get extra points for their receptions. Having an elite tight end is great. But what is more critical is having 2 startable tight ends. And the other thing you will notice is that you do have to suspend logic around quarterback here a little bit because the roster is so deep. Again, know your league settings because the actual starting lineup that you have affects how the different positions are weighted, right? So because the roster is so deep, quarterback is not really as impactful. I have played this league multiple years. I've made the playoffs, I think all of them, if not maybe miss one time. And I can tell you, a great quarterback can help, but extreme mediocrity is okay. I drafted Baker Mayfield last year, and I had a first round bye. Take that as you will. Now let's dive into the picks. Right off the bat here, I got exactly what I wanted. Oh God, it was beautiful. We've talked about this before. I have a very, very, very specific strategy at wide receiver this year when it comes to the first round. I feel comfortable with 4 receivers. That's it. It is Puka, Jamar, JSN, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I was so thrilled when I saw the running back start to fly off the board and Amon-Ra was right there for me. Perfect. Grab him because there were multiple running backs that I would have been okay with drafting in the second round there. Now coming around here, I assumed that the 12th spot here, Drew would at least take a running back. So again, I was cool. I was thinking, I've got my options there. When it comes to the guys outside of like the top 5 or so, there's a lot of running back options. So really for me this year, I mean, if you can walk away, you've got an early pick and you can walk away with Gibbs or Bijan, fantastic. But after that, I mean, grab an elite receiver and then hit running back in the second round, right? Because there's options on top of options. So he took 2 wide receivers there. Great options, right? That's not a Jefferson and Drake London is not a bad strategy. But that allowed me to get my pick of running backs that I wanted. And you guys know that I do love Achane. I will die on that hill with him this season. The receiving upside is going to be high. We've talked about this before. I know that you guys are nervous about the team being bad and the checkdowns and whatnot, saying Malik Willis is not going to check down. We've talked about it, guys. We're not worried about him not checking out because it's not the check downs that are the concern there. They line Achane up as a wide receiver. He plays out of the slot significantly. He plays out wide. And we do have the continuation of that offense. Mike McDaniel is gone, but they promoted from within in terms of the passing game coordinator being Bobby Slowick. So you may have your concerns about Bobby Slowick, but I do feel like he is going to be able to execute the focal point of this offense being Achane. Volume is going to carry him through here for sure. Now, coming around to the 3rd round, I drafted Rashee Rice. I'm perfectly okay with that. To be honest, though, if Emeka Egbuka did not go 2 picks before, I 100% had that boy queued up. That was going to be my pick there. So shout out to Chris for sniping me on that one. Now coming around the corner, got another player that I wanted. Right here is I'm just looking across the board in terms of trying to figure out how quickly these tight ends are going to go off the board, right? I realize that now would be a perfect spot to just go ahead and invest in a guy that I know has massive target share because I know 100 targets are going his way. Kevin Stefanski loves targeting tight ends at an aggressive clip, literally 30% to the position as a whole there in his tenure at Cleveland. So feel very comfortable with Kyle Pitts in terms of a guy that on a weekly basis, volume. And compared to last year, right, the volume came all the way at the end, unfortunately, but I do think that it's going to be a little bit more spread out this season. So that is why I feel much more comfortable about Kyle Pitts here. Now, coming around to round 5, I got exactly who I wanted here. I was debating whether or not I wanted to take a receiver here because there are options, right? But it felt like a good place to go with a running back, and especially because when it comes to me in terms of comfort of running backs in this specific range, Judkins is kind of my cutoff. Now, I feel like things are very close there between him and Bucky Irving, Jadarian Price, Bashal Tootin. I like these guys, but at the end of the day, Despite the fact that we do have our concerns, obviously, with the Cleveland offense, I feel like Judkins is being undervalued a little bit. The ranking is appropriate, don't get me wrong, but he's being undervalued for the fact that, yeah, he's coming off the injury, but he's on the field. We know that there is no delay in his recovery. He should be ready and, raring to go in week 1. And that's a 3-down back. I know he doesn't have the prolific pass catching upside of some of these other running backs, but I'd feel very confident in terms of the volume that we're going to see from him. So this is kind of my cutoff of a guy that I know for sure what I'm getting out of him. I know I'm getting goal line touches. I know that I'm getting early down work, and I know that I'm going to get him catching some checkdowns and being slightly-ish productive with them. So realistically, you can get those low-end RB1 numbers, and he did give us RB1 weeks last season, despite the fact that Cleveland's offense was a complete mess. The offensive line was terrible. They retooled the offensive line this year. It cannot get worse than it was last year, so things are all trending in positive directions. I do feel he's being undervalued. 1,000-yard rusher, double-digit touchdowns, very realistic. Now coming around to the 6th round, I opted not to go tight end here. I should have gone tight end here. I don't regret Quinshon Judkins because at the end of the day, he's my wide receiver 3. I think that is perfectly fine. The upside is there if he stays healthy and on the field. It's just a risk of whether or not the health pans out. So I don't regret Quinshon Judkins. I regret not getting one of the tight ends that I wanted. I did math and I thought for sure that Kelsey, Kittle, or Likely was going to fall to me in the 7th round. I was wrong. So I passed and pushed tight end further down a little bit, and I drafted Alec Pierce and Quentin Johnston. You guys know that I'm a big Johnston truther there. And Alec Pierce, because of the depth, he's dealing, obviously, we got to see how this injury recovery goes for him and, what he looks like in terms of being ready for training camp and beyond. But because of the depth that I have at receiver, I feel perfect. And we'll get to the more depth that I have at receiver, right? I feel perfectly fine if for some reason he starts on the pup and I am not able to play him for the first part of the season. All good. Don't care. I like the Colts. I want a piece of the offense in terms of pass catchers because I love that it has been whittled down. I love Michael Pittman, but him being pushed out makes it so that Tyler Warren, Alec Pierce, and Josh Downs are all viable options that I would feel comfortable with. So wanted to get one of those guys. Now, coming around here, I drafted A.J. Barner here because I honestly feel a lot more comfortable with A.J. Barner as a tight end than a lot of these other guys, right? Because targets can go up for him because there's not serious competition at wide receiver too. It's all JSN, right? We know that Cooper Kupp is aging out. We know that Rashid Shaheed has big boom capabilities, right? But they don't typically use him as a high volume receiver. And then Torrey Horton is another one that I love, obviously, but that just hasn't really panned out. So when we're looking at that offense, I mean, realistically, in terms of secondary pass catchers that you want to target in Seattle's offense, it is technically A.J. Barner. And I know that people, love Elijah Arroyo as a prospect. I know I did. But it does seem very solidified that A.J. Barner is the tight end 1 moving forward there. So I'm okay with him being my, he had some boom weeks, right? On a given week. And what I talked about, on a given week, there can be upside with him. So I was pretty okay with A.J. Barner with this pick. Now coming around here, this is a great spot to grab DeCorey Krosky-Merritt, get some running back depth there as well, looking across the board. This was a good time to invest in a quarterback. And I thought, oh, that's cool. Justin Herbert's on the board. This is a perfect time to snag a stack there with Quentin Johnston because those are always fun. Now, coming around to my late round picks, here's why I really feel I was in my bag, people. I'm not going to lie. I think I was in my bag on this one. You guys know that I love Emeka Egbuka. I was not able to get him. If I'm not getting Emeka Egbuka, guess who I'm getting? I'm getting Ted Hurst. Don't play with me on that. 100%. It's one or the other. I'm telling you guys, you want one of these guys. If you can't get Emeka, go around in late rounds, grab Ted Hurst, because realistically, he should be a day 1 starter there. The same concept there with Denzel Boston, just far lesser offense, unfortunately, there in Cleveland. Yes, I have 2 Cleveland guys on my team, but it's a later round pick. If it pans out, perfect. If it doesn't, that's okay too, right? Leaning towards upside here, because while you're looking, look at the guys being drafted before. There's Jawan Jennings, who we know is talented, but again, he's not playing over Justin Jefferson for sure, and probably not over Jordan Addison. Right before that was Antonio Williams, another promising rookie, but at the end of the day, he will not outperform Terry McLaurin unless something were to happen in terms of injury. Coming around towards guys that went after Jalen McMillan, who I like, but again, he is behind. He does have to surpass Chris Godwin in order to get those consistent looks. And then after that, in terms of wide receivers, you see Isaac Tesla, Trey Tucker, not a bad option there as well. And then things get a little bit shaky there. So I'm willing to take that risk with Denzel Boston because I think the Cleveland wide receiver room is wide open. And I do trust that this offense is going to push forward a bit with Todd Monken. Now, coming around round 14, you'll see, again, it's a 2 tight end draft. So you have to roster a minimum of 3, right? You have to. So as you're seeing these tight ends going off the board, it's really just a mental battle of trying to say, like, hey, who do I want to take a chance on that I think could be one of those breakout tight ends, right? Do I believe that it's going to be one of the LA Rams guys? It could be, but which one do I choose? Which LA Rams tight end is the one that I want to target? Could it be Gunnar Helm in Tennessee? Could that happen, right? Is there a TJ Hawkinson resurgence there in Minnesota? We know that Kyler Murray will throw targets, not touchdowns at tight ends. I'm sorry, Trey McBride. So as I'm sitting here trying to figure it out, I'm pushing, and it comes to round 14, and I see my man, I see him, and I'm glad that I got him, because my boy Coop was drafting a couple spots after me, and he was going to take him. Yes. Which is good, because we have this little rivalry, right? And he is a tight end guru, so him targeting Eli Stowers, tells me that I was just right. But Eli Stowers, because he does not have to start. I've got Kyle Pitts. I've got AJ Barner. I don't need a starter until we get around bye weeks. And then even then I can thug it out. I'm willing to take that chance on Stowers because I know that he is not going to start off the season as the tight end 1 in that offense. There's going to be very limited usage, right? If we get to that point where Goddard can't go, he's dealing with some kind of injury, and Stowers gets the opportunity, I would not be shocked if we see the push forward of Stowers, because that should theoretically be their future, right? So Stowers probably not going to be an early season factor, but it's something that could develop as the season goes on. So I wanted to take that chance there and get him on my roster. Kind of similar to Oronde Gadsden last year, for being honest. And that was someone who I targeted late in deeper leagues as well. It panned out perfectly. I could see that being the same trajectory. After that, I drafted Darnell Mooney. I think that's a good, again, we've got the Malik Neighbors concerns. That is why I like Isaiah Likely a lot and regret not getting Isaiah Likely. But somebody is going to have to catch that ball if Neighbors is not going to start the season healthy, right? So targeting Darnell Mooney later in drafts, smart move. And then I just wanted to kind of solidify a little handcuff situation. Josh Jacobs dealing with a legal issue. I don't think there's anything that's going to come of it, if I'm being honest there, in terms of 2026. But if something did, it wouldn't hurt to have Marshawn Lloyd on my roster. At that point, you're just grabbing, look at the guys that came off after Tank Bigsby, Mike Washington, right? At that point, you're just grabbing what you think could be a high-end handcuff, and Marshawn Lloyd is one of those guys for me. Now, looking at the draft board in terms of, obviously, I like my team the best, right? But looking at the draft board in terms of other teams that I really like Mike Dempsey's team, right? You can't go wrong, my God, with a Bijan, Derrick Henry kickoff right there. He's got a clear wide receiver 1 there in Chris Olave. Then he turned around and went RB heavy on Kyron Williams as well. He got Harold Fanta Jr., was able to come around and get Chigo Okonkwo there. So he's got 2 strong tight ends. And a third in TJ Hawkinson is, I think that's very solid there. Michael Wilson, he's got a lot of wide receiver 2s though, in terms of after that with Michael Wilson, Chris Godwin, and Josh Downs. But any one of those could pan out to have high upside. Maybe Godwin stays healthy and gives it one last go. Josh Downs, perhaps he thrives and he is the one that is more effective than Alec Pierce in terms of, now they play 2 very different roles, right? But in terms of target share, I could easily see target share favoring Josh Downs a little bit more there. Obviously, upside would be higher with Alec Pierce because of the boom nature of his deep threat capabilities. But Josh Downs, perfectly fine option. And then Michael Wilson, if Marvin Harrison Jr. does Marvin Harrison Jr. things, Michael Wilson can obviously pan out. So I really like his team as well. Then the other team that I like a lot is Drew Scott's team. And if memory serves me correctly, I believe I was the 2nd seed. I had the 2nd most points in the league, and I believe he had the 1st. And you can see why, right? Again, because I talked about the fact that my preference is to be heavy at wide receiver, right? And he went wide receiver straight off the bat with Jefferson, Drake London, and T. Higgins. That can be nasty. in terms of overall points that you have to compete with there. But that wraps things up. Let me know in the comments what you think about the draft overall, what you think about my team. And again, just remember, don't say, oh my God, Lamar went in the 9th round. Now, Caleb Williams going before Lamar is a bit perplexing. But again, hey, he had a great overall finish last year, so, perhaps some trutherism in there. But again, don't be concerned about the fact that elite quarterbacks were pushed down, because again, it's not that much of a factor here. There was one year where I drafted Josh Allen. It didn't do crap for my roster. Having him, it was not an advantage whatsoever in terms of pushing my team forward, just because, it caused me to miss out on elite options at other positions that needed to be deeper. So just keep that in mind. But drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts here. And again, as I continue to do more drafts, I will be sharing those with you guys. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. You can find me across all social media platforms at It's Tara Time. I am also live every Wednesday on YouTube at 8 p.m. EST, so make sure that you stop by and chat. It is always a good time. You can ask me any questions that you want. You can also subscribe to my Substack if you want to support me another way. And if you are looking for new fantasy football tools in 2026, look at Player Profiler. You can use my promo code TARA for 25% off at Player Profiler.